Hello again, and finally we are on our third video for our review on nouns. Today, in this video, we will be talking about functions of nouns. So make sure you watch this video para makabalo mo unsa yung mga functions of nouns. Sir Kevin, na are functions ang nouns? Yes, there are functions of nouns, and actually, they are 8 ways a nouns can function. Nouns can function. And in our lesson, we have to remember that pronouns stand in the place of nouns. Pwede sila mas-substitute as nouns and can function any way a noun can. Okay? So remember that one. But don't worry, we will be talking about nouns today. So I think that would be it. Okay? So let's go with our different functions. So unsad any na mga functions nga barugan sa nouns. Okay? So yes, unsay mga different functions. So here are the different functions of a noun. So we have the subject, and we have the direct object, we have the indirect object, we have the predicate nominative, we have the object of the preposition, we have the appositive, we have the objective complement, and we have the noun of direct address. Okay, so this becomes a little bit complicated. Now, some of you have already learned this one in your high school. But this is just a review, and if you haven't learned this one, then this is your good start. Okay, so I will be explaining to you the functions of a noun. I hope you're taking down notes in your homes right now, because we will be starting our discussion on the functions of nouns. Okay, the first function of a noun is what we call the subject, and of course, as you know, subject is the one doing the action. Okay. So, mao tong term dira. Subject is the one doing the action. So, for example, here in our sentences below, so we see here, John ran away from the monster. So, who is running away? John, di ba? Or kinsa may gabuhat sa action. So, who is speeding up? The driver, di ba? But this one, John was hit in the head. Sometimes, not necessarily nga, di ba, we talked about man to ka ng, what do you call this? Nouns, di ba? Now, when you, nouns can also, the subject can also be the doer of the action, or the one being talked about in the sentence. So, for example, sa atong third nga example dira, John was hit in the head, even though dili si John ang nag-igo sa ulo, but then John was the one being talked about. Therefore, we have this one as our subject. Okay? Mao ni siya atong subject sa sentence. Okay? So, para maklaro gamay, subjects usually naagi ni siya sa unahan nga part. It's in the beginning part of the sentence. So, for example, kanang John dira o driver, di ba, kasagaran na siya sa unahan. But then, in exception with the second example, but then ang second example, pwede mo na to i-invert. The driver sped up nearing the yellow light. So, nagyapon siya sa unahan. Okay? So, that's our subject. Next one, we go with our direct object. And direct object follows the verb and receives its action. So all the time, a direct object follows a verb and it receives the action. Para mahibawan ninyo if it's a direct object, you know this, we answer the question what or whom after the verb. Oh, in our example, you can see, what's the verb there? Di ba? Threw? So, John threw what? Ball. So, ball there becomes the direct object. Tomorrow morning, Elisa will meet your sister. Who will Elisa meet? Meet whom? Sister. Correct. Now, when hiking, Alicia found a silver bracelet. Alicia found what? Bracelet. Diba? So, if it answers the question what or whom, then it is after the verb. So, for example, through what, meet whom, found what. We ask the questions what or whom after the verb, and if it answers the question, then it is a direct object. Okay? Now let's go to the indirect object, and the indirect object follows the verb. Follows the verb gyapon, after gyapon is a verb, and answers to whom or for whom. to whom or for whom para kang kinsa niya gibuhat ang actions. Okay? It can also be to what or for what, but it's usually to whom or for whom ang question. So for example, in our sentence here, the indirect object is frequently a pronoun. Usahay pronoun ang indirect object, but most of the time, and that's what we will be using in our lesson today, noun gyud atong gamiton. But it doesn't mean nga puro sa pod noun. Pwede na gyud siya mahimong pronoun. Okay? In our example, John gave me the money. John gave, mangutan na sa ta. John gave what? John gave what? Money, di ba? Now, to whom did John give the money? John gave the money to me. And me there is the indirect object. Another example, Elisa sent John a letter. Elisa sent what? Di ba? Direct object. Elisa sent what? Very good. Elisa sent a letter. To whom did Elisa send the letter? Para kang kinsa niya gisend ang letter para ni John. And John there is our indirect object. Lastly, our example. Allison bought Alex a car. So Allison bought what? Allison bought a car. Diba? Now, to whom? Para kang kinsa niya gihatag ang car? To Alex. Okay, so Alex there becomes the indirect object. Okay? Klaro ra? Kaya pa? Okay? Sige, let's go with our next function of a noun. Now, what we have here is the predicate nominative. Now, a predicate nominative follows the verb. So that means after siya sa verb, and it renames the subject. So that means the subject and the predicate nominative are the same person. There's just the same person. Let's say, for example, John is a student. Is John and the student the same person? Yes. Di ba? So, student there becomes the predicate nominative. And if tanaw ninyo atong mga examples, our examples are all linking verbs. Di ba? Na-apply na ninyo atong lesson last time. Di ba? So, linking verbs ni siya tanan. So, ang inyong tip, here's your life hack. If predicate nominative gani, linking verb yun na siya. Ang nag-connect between the subject and the predicate nominative. Again, here in our second example, A Christmas Carol is a good book. What is a good book? A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol is what? A book, di ba? And what is the connecting verb? The connecting verb is a linking verb? Is. So, book there is a predicate nominative because it renames the A Christmas Carol. And lastly, Elisa became a lawyer. Who is a lawyer? Elisa, di ba? Elisa is a what? Elisa is a lawyer. So, ang atong predicate nominative here is the lawyer. Kay pareha ramang tao, si Elisa ug ang lawyer. Okay? Now, let's go to our next function of a noun. Again, if you feel that this is a little bit fast, or you can pause the video and you relax. Okay? Next, we have the object of the preposition. And prepositions are words that link the rest of the sentence to their object. And a preposition, of course, ang kanang mga preposition, kanang mga after, kanang mga with, kanang mga across, and I will give you a list of prepositions as well. Pero most probably, you know what prepositions are, kanang mga for, kanang mga at. Oh. Now, a preposition has to have an object. Kinahanglan na siya'y object. And that object is a noun or a pronoun. That's why object of the preposition siya. Kaya naara siya tumoy sa preposition. Like for example, here in our example, he left after class. So our preposition there is after, and then naglibog na ako. After sa after, na ay class. And class there becomes the object of the preposition because it is the noun after the preposition. That's your tip. Mangita mo preposition, then ang noun after the preposition, that becomes the object of the preposition. Let's say for example, here in our second example, I work with your friend. So I work with, that's our preposition. Pero ang your, is it a noun? Di ba dili? So ato ta sa friend. Is friend a noun? Yes. Therefore, friend there is our object of the preposition. And our last example, my best friend lives across the street. What's our preposition there? Good. Our preposition there is across. Now, across the street. Di ba? Dili man na naon ang the, di ba? So, ato kita sa street. So, street there becomes the object of the preposition. Okay? Next, let's go to our next function, which is what we call appositive. Appositive is basically a renaming of the noun. But then, the noun doesn't have to be the subject of the sentence. And most importantly, magsunod siya sa noun na iyang gi-rename. Look at our examples. My sister Rita lives in Bantayan Island. Rita there is the sister. And Rita follows sister directly. Diretso niya follow si Rita. Diretso niya follow si sister. Therefore, Rita there is an appositive because Rita is renaming the sister. So kinsa man nga sister? Si Rita. So that is an appositive. Remember, appositives are different from predicate nominative because ang predicate nominative, unsa gito yung nag-connect nila? Nag-connect sila og linking verb. But this appositive, it does not need a linking verb and tupad ra gyud siya sa noun. Okay? Let's say for example, the book I'm reading. Now, I'm reading there is an exception because the book I'm reading is only an adjective. Adjective describing book. But anyway, kung paano na to ng I'm reading, it will still make sense, di ba? So the book Scarlet Letter is set in the US. Okay? Klaro ra. Next, I met my friend Helen last year. Kinsa nga friend? Si Helen. And nagtupad si friend o si Helen, therefore Helen there is the appositive. Klaro ra. Now, let's go to our next one, our objective complement. An objective complement renames the direct object. Okay? Now, it can be distinguished from an appositive, which can rename any noun. Diba? We talked about appositive ganiha. Any noun, by determining if the words to be can be inserted before it. So, here's your life hack. Kinahanglan butangan ninyo og to be para makabalo mo if it's an objective complement or not. Let's say for example here, we elected Duterte president. That's a sentence. We elected Duterte president. But president there is we assume that president there is an objective complement. Kaya naman say, okay, di ba it renames man the direct object, so we elected who? Di ba? Unsa to yung mga questions nga matubag sa direct object? After the verb, we elected what? Or we elected who, di ba? So, we elected who? Duterte. To be president. So, if butangan na to og to be between the direct object and the objective complement, if it makes sense, then the word there, kanang president there is an objective complement. Same with our second example. I consider him to be my brother. I considered him my brother. Rather, I consider him my brother. I consider who? Him, di ba? Him to be what? My brother. But, tanawan ninyo. There's an exception. He saw my sister Rita yesterday. He saw who? Sister, di ba? Now, let's put the to be there. He saw my sister to be Rita yesterday. Does it make sense? He saw my sister to be Rita yesterday. Does it make sense? Di ba dili? Therefore, it is not an objective complement. Okay? It is rather a what? What function is it? What is its function? It's an appositive. Okay, so dapat hinay kita. Again, objective complement, butangan nato og unsa nga phrase. Very good. We have to put the phrase to be. And lastly, the last function of noun that we will be talking about is the noun of direct address. And the noun of direct address is when talking to someone. Let's say, for example, Juan, when are you going to leave? So you're talking directly to Juan. But Juan is not subject of the sentence. Oh. Let's say, for example, here, mas klaro-klaro na example. Mia, I haven't finished the list. So I'm talking to Mia and I'm telling Mia, I haven't finished the list. So Mia is not the one Mia is not the subject. I am. Because I am the one who has not finished the list yet. But I called Mia. And Mia there is the noun of direct address. And lastly, in our example, Sir Kevin, I need to turn in my paper late. Okay? So Sir Kevin there becomes the direct address. Okay? So if you have any questions, make sure you wrote them down. You wrote them down while you were watching, because I will be answering your questions later on in our checkup. Okay? So I'm assuming that I'm assuming that you've watched this one on Monday. And after some Monday, so Tuesday we will have our check-up time. So I will call you, I will group call you, and I will check if nakasabot bagin mo sa lessons, and if you have any questions, that's the time that you can ask. Okay, kay nakabantay ko nga dili kay kung maka-check sa inyong exit ticket tungod sa kadaghan. Okay? So that's what we will be doing, and I hope it will work. Okay? So thank you everyone for listening in our 3 videos. I hope that you will have a great day. Please make sure nga nakasabot gud mo. If wala gud mo nakasabot, communicate with me. Okay? Thank you and good night. Good night naman. Good morning.